What if the most dangerous person in your life never raised their voice, never called you names, and never did anything you could clearly point to as wrong? What if he just quietly, calmly, and consistently made you feel like you were the problem? That's what we're talking about today. 7 rare manipulation tactics that most people don't recognize, even while they're being used on them right now. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to walk away with something genuinely powerful. You'll be able to see these tactics in real time, name them, and refuse to play along. Plus, I've got a special bonus waiting for you at the very end. Something that ties all of this together into real, lasting protection. So stick with me all the way through, let's be honest. When most of us picture manipulation, we picture someone yelling, threatening, or obviously lying. We think it's loud and visible. But here's what's actually terrifying. The most effective manipulators are the quietest ones in the room. He doesn't need to scream. She doesn't need to threaten. They just work on your mind from the inside. And by the time you realize what's happening, you're already confused, defensive, and apologizing for things that weren't your fault. This is real psychology, and it's happening in relationships, workplaces, and families every single day. Tactic number 1 is conversational ownership. This is one of the slickest moves out there, and it's almost invisible when it's happening. The manipulator never argues openly. He just redirects. You ask him a direct question and he gives you a brief, vague answer, then immediately pivots the entire conversation towards something that puts you off balance. Say you ask why he didn't show up when he promised. He might say something like, "Look, I messed up, but why do you always jump straight to assuming the worst in me?" And just like that, it's no longer about his broken promise. It's about your attitude. You didn't even notice the switch. He's now controlling the entire conversation, and you're standing there defending your tone rather than addressing the original issue. He didn't lie, didn't yell, but he's completely taken over the narrative. Tactic number 2 is strategic vulnerability. This one's harder to spot because it looks like emotional openness. She'll tell you something painful about her past, or she'll get a tremor in her voice at exactly the right moment, and suddenly you feel like you'd be cruel to push back. That's the mechanism. The shared pain or displayed weakness is timed precisely to lower your defenses. She's not connecting with you. She's leveraging your empathy to gain control of the outcome. Genuine vulnerability is spontaneous and consistent. Strategic vulnerability appears right when she needs you to back down. Remember that distinction, and remember we'll talk at the end about how to build the kind of inner strength that makes these tactics lose their grip on you. Tactic number 3 is reverse anchoring. This one hides behind what feels like a compromise. He starts with something outrageous. An extreme demand, an unfair accusation, a wild request. You say no, obviously. That refusal is actually the setup. Then he softens, walks it back, and offers something that sounds far more reasonable. And now you're actually relieved to accept the second thing, even though it was his real goal all along. He set the anchor so high that anything below it feels like fairness. You didn't negotiate your way to a good outcome. You got guided into exactly where he wanted you to end up. Now, quick pause here. If you're finding this valuable, please subscribe to this channel because we dig into psychology, mindset, and human behavior at this level regularly, and you don't want to miss what's coming. There's too much important material here to lose track of. Back to it. Tactic number 4 is intentional misinterpretation. You say something completely reasonable. She hears it, and then she repeats it back in a completely different form. You say you need some space to think. She responds with, "So you're just abandoning me again." Now you're not talking about needing space anymore. You're desperately trying to clarify that you didn't mean it that way. And while you're doing that, she's already sitting comfortably in control of the whole exchange. This tactic keeps you permanently on defense. It's exhausting because you can't actually make a point. Every statement you make gets distorted, and you end up spending your energy on corrections rather than on the actual conversation. Tactic number 5 is the illusion of truth effect, and there's real psychology behind this. Our brains are wired to treat familiarity as a signal of accuracy. The more often we hear something, the more credible it starts to feel, even when we intellectually know it might not be true. A skilled manipulator uses this by repeating the same half-truth or harmful label about you over and over in different contexts. He doesn't argue with you. He just keeps saying you're too sensitive, or you always do this, or everyone thinks you overreact. At first, you push back confidently, but after the 20th repetition, something starts to shift. You start wondering if maybe there's something to it. That doubt is exactly what he's planting. And that's a huge reason why, toward the end of this video, I want to share something that helps you build a stable foundation in your own mind. One that makes these kinds of planted doubts much harder to take root. Tactic number 6 is triangulation. This one's classic in toxic relationships, but it's still surprisingly underestimated. The manipulator brings in a third party, real or completely invented, to validate her position and make you feel outnumbered. She might say, "Even your friend agrees that you've been impossible lately." Or, "My whole family noticed how you've changed." You can't argue with a group. You can't cross-examine a shadow. You just feel the pressure of suddenly being on the outside, as if everyone around you has privately concluded that you're the problem. It isolates you, makes you doubt your own perceptions, and positions her as the reasonable one while you scramble to win back standing in a social circle she just invented or weaponized. Tactic number 7 is the emotional timeout, and this might be the most psychologically punishing one on this list. When things get intense, he simply goes emotionally absent, not just quiet. He shuts down completely. No responses, no expression, no warmth, nothing. And because human beings are wired to feel anxiety in the presence of social disconnection, you immediately start to panic. You start asking yourself if you went too far, if you said something wrong, if you should apologize. And often you do apologize, not because you were actually wrong, but because the silence became unbearable. He didn't have to say a word. He just made you argue against yourself until you surrendered. Here's the truth that ties all 7 of these tactics together. They don't announce themselves. They don't come with warning labels. They whisper, and they whisper convincingly. The defense isn't just awareness of the tactics themselves, it's having a foundation strong enough that when someone tries to erode your sense of self, there's nothing to erode. That brings me to the special value I promised you at the start of the video. Here it is. The single most powerful thing you can do after watching this is to get genuinely clear on who you are and what you actually think and feel. Not in a vague, motivational way. In a practical, daily, structured way. When your identity is solid and your thinking is organized, manipulation struggles to gain traction because the manipulator's tools all rely on your uncertainty. They need you confused, doubting, and reactive. This is exactly why I want to tell you about the self-mastery system. If you've ever felt like you're constantly reacting to other people instead of operating from your own center, this is what addresses that at the root. It's a complete toolkit that covers mindset, productivity, habit formation, and purpose, all in one cohesive system with 30 comprehensive guides and over 210 interactive tools. It's not another book you read and forget. It's a structured path from where you are right now to where you actually want to be. And that inner clarity is your greatest protection against the kind of psychological influence we've been discussing today. You can check out all the details in the description below. The link is right there. Now before I let you go, there's one more thing. The next video on your screen right now is something you genuinely need to watch if today's topic resonated with you. It's about Machiavelli and the brutal, uncomfortable truth he wrote about 500 years ago regarding how the world actually operates. The title is, "The World Will Break You Unless You Become Ruthless." You should watch it because Machiavelli understood something that most people refuse to admit. That the world doesn't reward the most virtuous person in the room, it rewards the most prepared one. And understanding his philosophy will change how you see power, relationships, and your own place in the world forever. Click it now. I'll see you there.